Hey guys, it's Mr. Schmidt here, and in this video we're going to talk about the monopolist's marginal revenue and demand curve. So we're kind of setting the stage for graphing a monopoly in the next video. And what this should tell you at the start is the marginal revenue and demand curves for the monopolist are not the same curve. If you remember, in perfect competition, they were the same curve, right? It was a horizontal line, Mr. Darp. Well, that's not going to work this time. And so I want to talk about why that is. Now, we got this chart here, and feel free to draw it, pause the video and draw it yourself. But one assumption we are making here is that the monopolist cannot price discriminate, which means it cannot charge different prices to different consumers. It has to charge the same price to every consumer, and that's really important here. So we have a table here, and what I've given you is the price, demand, and average revenue for a monopolist: $11, $10, $9, $8. All three of those are the exact same value at each output level. Okay, and then we've got the quantity demanded, 0, 1, 2, 3 here, or we can also just treat this as the quantity. Okay, so we can just say we'll just say this is the quantity or the quantity demanded. It actually doesn't really matter here. And then we've got total revenue and marginal revenue. And so when we fill in this chart, and I'll change the color here, obviously 11 times 0, we're going to have $0 in total revenue. Marginal revenue, there isn't any. 10 times 1 is $10. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue. So 10 minus 0 is $10. 9 times 2 is $18. The change is $8. And then 8 times 3 is 24. The change is 6. And what you notice here is exactly what I said. Here's your demand. Here's your marginal revenue. They're not the same. In fact, demand is greater than marginal revenue at each of these quantities, okay? So again, what we really need to understand in this unit is not just monopoly, but how is monopoly different than perfect competition? And this is the biggest one of them all, that demand and marginal revenue are not the same curve. So if we were to go to draw them, it would look something like this. We'd have our quantity and our price. Eventually, this will become dollar sign, by the way. And then it's going to look something like this. Okay? So so that's the basic shape of it. If you wanted to take the point all the way to the y-axis, you could. But this is how the monopolist demand and marginal revenue curves look. And remember, we can make demand equal to average revenue and the price. And so what we see here is that it's no longer Mr. Darp, it's just Darp. He's a little more, you're on a first name basis with him now, so you can just call him Darp instead of Mr. Darp, like a lot of you call me Schmidt instead of Mr. Schmidt, right? And so marginal revenue is below demand at every level of output. Marginal revenue is below demand. Now the question is why? Why aren't they the same curve? Well, this is the answer, and this is a question that is frequently asked on the AP exam, is why are they not the same? And the answer is because the monopolist has to lower the price on all units of output to sell an additional unit of output, right? So if we go back to the table here, what we can see here is if I want to sell this first unit, if I want to go from 0 to 1, I have to lower the price to $10. Otherwise, that one person isn't buying it. Well, now think about this. If I wanted to lower the price, if I wanted to sell the second unit, I have to lower the price to $9, not just on that second unit, but also on the first unit, right? It'd be the idea if I sell, if I sell one unit to Bob, and Bob is willing to pay $10, but John is only willing to pay $9. So how much am I going to sell each unit for? Well, the answer is $9. Why? Because I can't price discriminate. I have to sell every unit for one price. And so it's going to be the lowest price that every consumer is willing to pay. And I apologize for the bell ringing there. So you just have to ignore that. But that's the idea. That's the idea here. So once again, the monopolist marginal revenue curve lies below its demand curve because the monopolist must lower the price on all units of output to sell an additional unit of output. The last thing I want to talk about here is, since we have a demand curve, what is the elasticity of this demand curve? And to explain this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend the marginal revenue curve all the way past the x-axis, because marginal revenue can be negative, right? We can take away from total revenue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this spot right here, and I'm going to take my dots down and up and just cut the demand curve, right? This spot here would be where TR is at max, right? If marginal revenue is 0, total revenue is at a max. Just like when marginal product was at 0, total product was at a max. And so here's where we have to think about this. Now, we can ignore this part of the demand curve. Why? Because over this range of demand, marginal revenue is negative. Why would I be selling units of output if it's losing me revenue, if I'm actually losing money selling those units? So we need to pay attention to what I'm going to put in blue here, this part of the demand curve. And the question is that part of the demand curve elastic, inelastic, unit elastic, perfectly elastic, or perfectly inelastic? Well, we can rule out perfectly elastic and inelastic because it's not a vertical or horizontal line. But to figure out if it's elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic, what we need to do is apply the total revenue test we learned about in Unit 3. Remember, the total revenue test says that if total revenue increases as the price increases, okay, your price increase, total revenue increases, that's going to be inelastic demand. But if the price increases and total revenue decreases, then your demand is elastic. And of course, we can flip these to, look at it if the price is falling, and that's actually what we need to do here to figure this out. So over this range, the blue range on the demand curve, what's happening to price? Well, price is falling. Okay, well, what's happening to total revenue? Well, over that range, marginal revenue is positive, right? So if marginal revenue is positive, that has to mean total revenue is increasing. And so which of these does that match? It's the last one. So demand is elastic. So the key here is to understand that over the range of output the monopolist would ever sell, right, where marginal revenue is positive, demand is elastic, because as the price decreases, total revenue will increase because marginal revenue is positive. Okay? That's something they like to weave in sometimes with questions, so make sure we understand that. So that's all for this video on the monopolist's marginal revenue and demand curves. Until next time, have a great day.